Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Lisa Howland, and I'm the director of Always United. I'm going to start us off by introducing our moderator, Cindy Cox. Cindy Cox has a long time service with United Way as a volunteer on our board of directors. She's chaired our Community Impact Committee. She's a member of our Financial Stability Council, and she's a current member of Women in Philanthropy and Always United. I'm especially grateful for her leadership in Always United as a founding member of Always United in 2017, and as she is a current chair of our Activities Committee. Cindy does a lot of different things in the community, and the United Way of the Midlands is grateful, and especially for her service on other agencies like Cooperative Ministries, Tax Prep Program, Richland Library Friends and Foundation, Habitat for Humanity, and the Columbia Urban League. Cindy, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. It's good to be here. I want to thank everybody for joining us today for our Tuesday talk, where we have one of our Impact Midlands programs. And if you are a member of Always United, excuse me, that's my dog. And if you could put in the chat that you're a member and let us know you're out there, that would be most appreciated. And as Sara goes through her talk to teach us about and have us learn about the state of United Way, if you could put any questions you might have in the chat, and then we will come to those later. We'll take questions at the end of Sara's talk. So thank you all, and I am pleased now to introduce Sara Fawcett. Sara has served as president and CEO of United Way of the Midlands since June of 2017. Before joining the team at United Way, Sara served as Vice President of Human Resources for Eden's Investment Trust for more than 12 years. And in that role, Sara provided executive HR leadership to one of the largest privately held commercial real estate development companies in the United States. Sara has been a longtime volunteer and supporter of United Way of the Midlands, even before joining us as CEO. She has volunteered her time and expertise on both the resource development and the community impact arms of the organization. So Sara's roles have included membership of the board of directors. She has served as co-chair of the campaign committee, chair of the community impact committee, and chair of the Financial Stability Council. So prior to joining us, Sara had served United Way already in many facets. Sara has earned multiple awards, including being honored as one of Columbia Regional Business Report's 2019 Women of Influence. And she was also recognized as an icon as part of the 2021 Columbia Regional Business Report's Icons and Phenoms list. She has a bachelor's degree in economics from the College of William and Mary, and she has 3 children, Maddie, Ben, and John. And so I'm going to turn this over to our woman of influence icon, Sara Fawcett, to walk us through the state of United Way. And you all are in for a treat because there's a lot going on at United Way that Sara's going to share with us. So just a reminder, any questions, put them in the chat, and we'll get to those at the end. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Cindy. And one thing that I want to be sure that we all recognize with Cindy, she is a volunteer extraordinaire, as you could tell. And it's just a pleasure to work with her. United Way of the Midlands was very pleased to recognize her as our Alice Kemp DeWitt Award winner last year, I think it was, Cindy, and that is our highest honor that we give to volunteers with United Way. So, and you can tell from the way that Lisa introduced Cindy that is a very well-deserved accolade for her. So thank you very much, Cindy. And it really is a pleasure to be able to talk with you all today. The only disadvantage to StreamYard is I can't see who's out there. So I'm seeing people in the chat letting us know that you're here. So would love to know who's listening in today. But thank you very much, regardless of whether or not you put your name in the chat. I want to thank you very much for your interest in what's going on at United Way. I want to thank you for your support of United Way, not just with dollars, but for advocacy in the community, for support in the community. It's a pleasure to serve with each and every one of you. So again, thank you for taking some time. So there is a lot going on at United Way. We have really spent the last year taking a look at our business across the board. Every 3 years, we do a strategic plan, as I'm sure most of you do with your businesses. But this past year, we had an opportunity, partly because of a very unexpected gift that we received, but also because we felt it now was the time to take a broader look at how United Way of the Midlands is operating. I think you all probably know, but in case you don't, we were one of a very few nonprofits across the country, and certainly a very, very few United Ways that were fortunate enough to receive a completely unsolicited and um, I don't even, you run out of uns on this one, but we received an unsolicited and unanticipated gift from Mackenzie Scott, who is the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos of Amazon. They divorced about 4 or 5 years ago, and she got a $38 billion divorce settlement and is one of those billionaires that has decided to give away 90% of her wealth. And we got a call about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago. It was December of 2020, saying that she had chosen us as one of 386 nonprofits to receive a gift, and we got it. So we got this unrestricted gift of $10 million from her, and that has allowed us to do a number of things. Most importantly, I think at this juncture is to take a look at United Way of the Midlands itself, and then figure out how do we then take those dollars and invest them back into the community. So we have done several things. We have done a marketing plan where we've taken an in-depth look at how we market ourselves in the community. The United Way message, I think, is not always the easiest one to get out there because um, we're a lot of things to a lot of people, but we're not all things to all people. We're not a single issue United Way or a single issue nonprofit, but we do cover a number of different fronts, and we do it in a coordinated way. So we're not the direct service provider in several cases. In some cases, we are, like with MRC and things like that, but we mostly work in partnership with others. So it's a little hard. So we were able to, with the help of a volunteer, Lauren Elliott, put together a comprehensive marketing plan that we're now looking at how to operationalize within the organization. We had an opportunity to do a fundraising analysis, to look at our current, to have a consulting firm look at our current database and help us determine what is the untapped potential within that database, but also to determine, given the fact that we're coming up on our 100th anniversary in 2025, how do we leverage that gift? What is the giving capability within the community? I'll talk a little bit about that assessment, excuse me, about that study in a little bit. But we also did, for the first time since 2008, a community assessment where we looked quantitatively and qualitatively across our 6 counties to determine where do we need to be making our investments. And now that we have both this unexpected gift as well as a potential campaign to raise even more money, where do we need to be directing those dollars, and how can we do that in partnership across the community? So today, what I thought I would do is share with you the results of that community assessment. For those who have been around with United Way for a while, you will have remembered back in 2008 and 2009, we did a study that we called Facing Facts. And that was at the time, of course, I think everybody remembers 2008, especially those of us that were in banking or commercial real estate or industries like that. We really remember 2008. Um, the nonprofit sector also had a difficult time in those very, very lean years. So United Way did an assessment at that point called Facing Facts that helped realign its priorities at that point. And we had not really done another community-wide assessment since then. So we were able to do that this year, and we're delivered the results to our board of directors in December. And I want to share with you the slides from that presentation and be able to um, talk you through it. And I've not shared on StreamYard before, so we're going to try this here. And we're going to do our slideshow. Okay, and now I'm hoping everybody can see this. I can no longer see the chat, so Lisa or somebody, if people cannot see or hear this, just text me. I've got my phone right here. So our 2021 community assessment took place over about a 6-month period in on calendar year of last year. The process, as I said, was both quantitative and qualitative. We partnered with the University of South Carolina to create profiles based on all kinds of demographic data of each one of our 6 counties. And just to remind everybody, the 6 counties that we serve are Richland, Lexington, Newberry, um, Orangeburg, Fairfield, and Calhoun. Had to pause there for just a second. It's a very broad and very diverse base of counties that have just about we run the whole gamut from urban to very rural. And each one of those counties looks a little bit different. And in each one of those counties, from area to area, demographics can look very different. So we had University of South Carolina create these data profiles of our counties. And then we had United Way staff and volunteers hold what we call community conversations. We had 40 of them and heard from over 400 people, hopefully some of you that are on this call today. We held 40 community conversations across all 6 counties. We wanted to hear from as many different perspectives as we could. So those community conversations included service providers, service recipients, donors, friends, lapsed donors, community members that may not have been involved with the United Way at all. We wanted to have as broad of a spectrum as possible and get as much feedback as we could, because our standpoint is, if you live in a community, you're an expert on that community. You don't have to have a bunch of letters behind your name or a special education. If you are in and involved in your community, you know it. There were some things that we found out from our data that probably wouldn't take anybody by surprise. And these are just a few of the things that we saw from a demographics and data perspective. Across our service areas, there's a great disparity in the median household income. There is disparity in terms of people living in poverty on a percentage basis, twice as many in Orangeburg County, for example, as there are in Lexington County. Population growth versus population decline. Again, all of these are things that I think are familiar to us. And this was the data that underpinned our conversation. So this was kind of the starting point in each county. It was fascinating what we heard from the community. And there were themes both at the kind of the overarching general level as well as the systems level, how nonprofits and government systems work together, as well as at the program level. What can we be doing on the ground? And I want to start with those general themes. The overarching general theme that we heard is that this area, regardless of county, wants their communities to thrive. Words that we heard frequently included welcoming and friendly. These are the things that we aspire to be: welcoming and friendly and open. There was a longing for a sense of energy and vibrancy in the community. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know firsthand, that COVID has taken that away from us, that we have become more isolated from each other. Things get better for a while, then they go back a little bit, and then they get better for a while, and right now we're in another surge. And so building back that sense of community was something that came out in just about every conversation. Along with that was inclusion. um, Inclusion, racial inclusion, ethnic inclusion, but people aren't always sure how to make that happen, but they know that's a desire. Infrastructure needs, for example, and not least of which, we know broadband access through COVID has become an urgent need, and which is a good thing, I think. I think it was kind of not at the top of mind long enough, and then all of a sudden, when we all had to be at home, students had to learn from home, brought that need to the forefront. And then one thing that we heard over and over again were the negative effects of the pandemic on mental health across the board. From systems, how we work together, we heard a desire for there to be stronger nonprofit collaboration, that nonprofits seem to start their own programs as opposed to partnering with others to start new programs. Um, and so definitely people across the board wanted to see more collaboration across nonprofits. They also wanted to see capacity building for small nonprofits. And this is especially important when you're talking about rural communities because it's difficult if you're based in Richland or Lexington County to serve people in Newberry or Calhoun County. But there are small nonprofits, faith-based nonprofits or otherwise that do exist in these more outlying communities that we think if they had these community conversations proved out that if the resources are there, they can help build capacity. And locally based nonprofits are going to understand the needs of their community at an even more granular level than others could that are outside of the area. Another theme that came out was awareness of what resources are there to help people and how to get to them. How do you navigate through those resources? Um, when you're in crisis, the last thing that you want to do is have to call a bunch of different nonprofits, kind of run down a list to see who can help you or see if they offer the kind of help that you need. So one of the systems level themes that came out was awareness of resources and navigation to them. Culturally appropriate services came out, making sure we have a burgeoning Hispanic population and making sure that we make services and materials and information available in a way that they can access as well. And then another thing that was interesting that came out was that people would like to see more reporting on the work that United Way is doing to coordinate all of these types of things, as well as the work that we're doing directly. And, it's interesting. You always think that you're doing a good job in doing that. Obviously, we've got some room for improvement. At the program level, we heard, and I'm going to talk about program level for themes around adults that we heard first. Um, at the program level, we heard from the community that they want to see more supports for adults in terms of good paying jobs, the availability of good paying jobs, but also having the skill set to go into those jobs. That's a economic development theme that I know that I hear in different economic development forums that I get to participate in. I'm sure that you do too. Um, Generational poverty was another loud message that we heard. And generational poverty is both one of the tougher things to address, but also one of the most lasting things that we can affect. If we can make a change over generations, if we can take a multiple generation approach to helping people, we can make permanent change, not just temporary change that's meeting an immediate need. People want to see more engagement of parents from a school perspective and from a social emotional learning perspective. What can they be doing to help their child be more successful in school academically, but also what can they do to be more engaged on those soft skills and the more inward types of things that their kids need to learn that we know that they lost out on during the pandemic. And then again, mental health supports because of the stress that parents have been experiencing through the pandemic, whether that's job loss, whether that's having to balance children at home, having to learn at home, whether it's this crazy, I got exposed to somebody, I'm asymptomatic, but I tested positive, and now I've got to stay home again. All of that, all of those are huge stressors. And if you are in an unsteady or uncertain economic situation to begin with, those stressors that we all have been feeling in the last year carry even greater weight. Program level themes that we heard for children and youth: opportunity and career exploration for youth. This was interesting because it that the comments that we heard around opportunity and career exploration for older youth are particularly going back to that generational poverty that I talked about just a moment ago at the adult program level. Program level, youth need to have a vision of who and what they can be. And that doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. But when you are in a lower income situation or an economically unstable situation, your vision of what can be next for you is limited because you're worried about what's going to happen to me tomorrow. And if we can give opportunity to see beyond for youth that are at risk, that can tie back to that generational change. If they can see a vision of who they can be, if they can see people who have been in uncertain circumstances before and have been resilient and overcome that, um, we think it can make that generational change. Recreational opportunities for younger youth came out. I know as a parent of now middle and high schoolers, it was easy to find things for them to do after school and during the summers when they were in elementary school. When you start getting into middle school and high school, you're kind of out of luck. And unfortunately, those are the danger years for students. So finding ways to increase those opportunities for that kind of middle youth bracket. Quality, affordable childcare. I think that one of the comments that we've got up here on this particular slide from a Lexington County resident that we live in a childcare desert, um, think that speaks volumes. Um, and having that the high quality and affordable childcare available was really a theme that we heard. And then mental health supports for children as a result of the pandemic. Finally, another program level theme that we heard about was housing. This one was loud and clear. Um, Housing in terms of quality, affordable rental, and entry level homeownership. It is difficult enough to attract and retain young professionals in this area, and not just City of Columbia. We talk about that all the time, and I'm involved in some programming through MBLG to help retain young talent here. But you take that to Fairfield County, or you take that to Newberry County or Orangeburg County, and being able to retain young people is very difficult because of many factors, but the primary one is having quality, affordable rental and quality, affordable entry level home ownership where you are helping somebody establish a stake in the ground, begin to develop some wealth, to build some wealth. So that was a huge theme that came out across the board. And then the overall shortage of rental housing at different price levels and locations, for many reasons. There at least in Richland County, there's been an influx of rental housing primarily aimed at students, and there are some very good reasons for that. The university is a huge economic driver and an important economic driver for this area. But making sure that rental housing is available at all kinds of price points and locations. There are housing vouchers that are going unused right now because the availability of the type of rental housing in which those vouchers can be used is low, particularly when you're talking about single adults. So, if you're a single adult experiencing homelessness and you're trying to move out of homelessness, you've done your programs and you've done all of you've got yourself a job and you're ready to take a voucher and go find rental housing, it can be very challenging in terms of what's available. And then finally, the last theme around housing was home repair for senior citizens. This we saw during the flood when we were repairing flood homes where you had owner occupied housing where it's owner occupied by a senior who may have inherited the home from their parents, or it's been they moved in the late 1960s, raised their family in this house, and now we're a senior citizen living there, a low income senior. Sometimes it can be difficult to keep up the maintenance on these homes, especially because in many cases, they're older homes in which the senior has lived for 50 years or more. And routine maintenance can be difficult to keep up. And so making sure that we can keep those seniors in their homes, making sure that the homes are up to code. We were finding when we were going in and doing flood repair, once you start to do major repair, any repair on a home, and you find things that are out of code, it's got to be fixed. And not only does it need to be fixed because of code, but it makes it a livable a livable condition. That is something somebody can be proud of. Other themes that we heard that didn't really fall in any of these other categories, basic needs. United Way has always been very involved from a basic needs perspective. I think you all know that. And that's always going to be out there. People are always going to need the emergency assistance for rent, for food, for utilities, for transportation. Another thing we heard was around transportation. Certainly, the Comet in the last few years has expanded its footprint, but transportation continues to be a barrier, especially for people that do not live close to the urban core. Safe neighborhoods. I know that we all want to live in a safe neighborhood, and making sure that we are creating safe neighborhoods where people want to live and not just have to live is what another theme that came out. Access to fresh food. I thought this was an interesting one. Um, we do have food deserts in our community. There's no doubt about that. But I thought, particularly this comment to the right of the screen, where grocery stores make assumptions about people based on their income level and have processed meats but no fresh fruits or vegetables. That's just a representative comment that came out around the availability of fresh food. Access to quality medical care came out. The pandemic, and again, I like the comment that we have on the screen here that the pandemic proved we're a sick care system, not a healthcare system. Access to quality care um, came out during the pandemic as being very uneven across the board, and being able to provide access for people across the board came out in here as a theme as well. And then, of course, broadband access. And not just broadband access from the standpoint of, is the cable laid, but is it affordable for people to connect to it? Have they seen it as important enough as something that they need to connect to? So this is a really broad a broad spectrum of themes that we heard across the board. And I will tell you, it is not just United Way can't solve all of this. We would put forth to the community this call to action, where based on what we heard, based on what the data tells us and what the community said, this is the call to action for all of us in the community. Number one is, we need to create a more unified vision for growth and economic development. For those of you that have been part of the Committee of 100 or MBLG or the chambers, you know that this is a challenge for the Midlands, where have we're pretty siloed when it comes to growth and economic development. And so one of the calls to action from this underpins what others are saying as well, having a unified vision. Recognizing the impact of the pandemic on everybody. It has affected all of us at every level. We're weary, we're worn out. Um, for various reasons, and ensuring that we all have access to the kind of support that we need, and making sure that it's okay to get the help that you need. Not only that it's there, but that we want people to be seeking the care that they need and the help that they need. We definitely heard a call to expand the opportunities for children and youth to thrive, whether that goes from affordable childcare when they're very young to after school programs for older youth. Um, a strong safety net, which what we mean by that's a little bit of nonprofit speak in there, but a strong safety net means meeting those basic need issues that come up that we know will always be there, but being intentional about it in finding ways to address the root causes. Why does someone go through a cycle of housing instability? Why do people go through cycles of food insecurity, and what are the root causes of that, so that we can try to move the needle in terms of the strong safety net not having to serve as many people, frankly. um, Talked about this a few minutes ago, supporting deeper collaboration across our nonprofit and public sectors, and including as many community voices as we can. Identifying and work collectively to remove barriers to opportunity and to create more avenues for opportunity. Making housing affordable, um, loud and clear, and then supporting adults in upskilling and obtaining better paying jobs. Again, this is a broad agenda. It is something that United Way cannot do on our own. And we are going to be taking this agenda far and wide. I'm meeting with Mayor Rickaman next week to talk to him about this. We're going to be meeting with chamber leaders, with government leaders, with other nonprofit leaders to figure out how we can work together to meet this call to action. How can we make these things come to reality for the Midlands? And so that I can see you all, I'm going to stop. Well, I can't see you, but you can probably see me. I'll stop sharing, I think. Okay, can you all? Okay, Lisa just told me I'm good. So I am really, I know it's difficult in this format to be able to discuss and hear questions, but I'd love to hear, and I'm happy to pull up other parts of uh, that presentation if I need to. Very interested in feedback from you all. So if you have got comments or questions that you would like to put in the chat about what you've just heard, if you need me to go back and show you go back to another slide, I'm happy to do that. So I see a question. Are there opportunities to partner with state agencies to improve support networks in the Midlands? Yes, there are. And Nettie, I appreciate that question. For example, we are for the first time looking to partner with the Department of Commerce and the Department of Education on a new initiative that's in partnership with a nonprofit that is called EdFarm. And EdFarm was formed by Apple. And it was to promote innovation in teaching and learning at the K through 12 level, and as well as college preparatory work. And we're looking to partner with commerce and with education on the college prep piece of it as an initial investment in the community with Ed Farms. So we're excited about that, and hopefully, fingers crossed, um, we will be able to get a grant through the governor's budget to be able to make that happen. And Nettie, I'm assuming what's happening with the state campaign, I hope you mean the United Way state workplace campaign. We're very excited. I think that we've got some new energy around the United Way, and the state campaign has a lot of potential because the state is the biggest employer in the state. And particularly for our smaller United Ways around the state, there are, just your fun factoid for the day, there are 25 United Ways in the state. Only 3 of us are $10 million or more. One is 5 million, 2 are 2.5 million, and everyone else is $1 million or below. So the dollars raised through the state campaign can make a big difference, particularly in some of these smaller counties, because every county has DMV employees, DSS employees, you know, people that can give through the state campaign. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, to have a great show for the state campaign this year.
Sarah, I see a question from Juanita. She's saying it's great information. There are nonprofits providing youth programming. How can we partner with United Way to work to close that gap?
Great question, Juanita. And as we are looking at our agenda going forward, one of the things that we are hearing, as we heard from the the assessment, and that we think is really the wave of the future, is really kind of taking a multi-generation or a 2-generation approach to youth and their families. Whether you're talking about about younger people, or whether you're talking about older youth, um, where we're working not just with the student, but also working with their family. So looking at partnerships with, Boys and Girls Club, for example, they've been a long-term strong partner with us in addressing youth. We mostly have focused on literacy. What this community assessment is telling us is we need to focus potentially more on programming for youth and opportunity, mentorships and internships and things of that nature. We will be putting out our investment agenda for the 22-23 year in the next month or so, and that'll kind of give you an idea about the types of partnerships that we're going to be looking at. Yes, and Juanita, yes, we're talking about youth and parents in that youth 11 to 18.
Okay, Sarah, how can Always United members contribute to the mission of United Way and to your call to action?
So, couple of ways. Number one is advocacy. You saw the list of things that we heard from the community, and like I said, it's going to take more than United Way to be able to address all this. We can't do it on our own. We have to do it in partnership. And there are pieces of this that other people have to own. And so helping us get that message out in any forum that you find yourself in is going to be very important. Making sure that you're looking out for those volunteer opportunities with our partner agencies when we're talking about trying to really put some juice into mentorship programs or something along those lines. Look for those opportunities where you can jump in and, you've been knocked around. I know I've been knocked around by life. I would assume everybody else on this call has been too. There's a lot that others can learn, because we haven't lived the perfect, you know, seamless life. Um, so looking for those types of opportunities. If there's opportunities to um, things like if you've never been a VITA volunteer, VITA is the volunteer tax return preparation program that the cooperative ministry, for example, in Richland County runs. That is a great way to help parents increase their income, to find to be able to find those areas where they really need to, where they have the opportunity to get some of their tax dollars back or get some of the tax credits that they're eligible for. So any way that you can, but some of it's going to be keeping your ear to the ground, some of it is going to be keeping your eye on the volunteer opportunities through Always United, or even on the United Ways Volunteer Center site. um, we can use your time, and we can use the experience that you bring, the life experiences that you're bringing. There's a ton of value in that,
Thanks, Sarah.
and
We
continue to be
have
part of Always United.
yes, thank you, and share the opportunities with your friends
Yes.
about Always
Yes.
United. We do have one question from Nettie. She has a grandchild, I guess that is, interested in apprenticeship programs. Can there be an approach through the United Way to expand apprenticeship programs in all schools?
Great question. We have part of the partnership with Ed Farm and Apple is expanding some K through 12 initiatives. Um, that's more relative to technology and things like that. But we're in active conversation with the school districts about those programs. Long term, even to a great extent, short term programs like that have to be funded by the district, because you're talking about such a broad. I mean, we've got a lot of schools in the Midlands. I mean, our 6 counties have almost 1 million people population-wise. I mean, this is a big area. And so it takes a lot of resources when you're talking about being able to expand programs. It takes a lot of resources to be able to do that. So there are lots of things that I would love for us, including internship programs. I would love to see schools bring back, high schools bring back, high schools and middle schools, frankly, bring back more practical skill training, manual skill training. I have no idea why we got away from that. But then again, my kids, I don't know about you all, but when I was in high school, we had PE every day, regardless of the weather. My kids don't have that. They get to only have to take it one semester. I'm like, wait a minute, when did this happen? So, so yeah, I mean, but what we've learned with this Ed Farm programming, with expanding some resiliency work that we've been doing in the schools, is working with the school districts to have a sustainability plan for those types of programs.
All right, Sarah, that looks like the last of the questions. So I thank you so much for taking the time today to share the exciting things going on at United Way, and in particular, the results of the community conversations. I think it's a good way for us all to learn sort of what is going on in our communities and how can we be of assistance. So thank you.
I thought the broader approach might be a little bit better because, I can talk about what's going on at United Way today, but what I went through with you through the community conversation, that's the United Way for tomorrow.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and we're really excited about it.
And we're all part of United Way.
Yes.
We're all part of the community. So thank you again for joining us. Let's see, we do have one question. Will we be sharing the slides from today's talk?
So we actually have a rollout plan for this. So you will be seeing more. We're going to make all of this information available on a broader scale coming up in the next month. So you'll be seeing a lot more about it.
Great. let's see, I do see another question here. I'm going to squeeze one more in on you, Sarah. Since you mentioned children's literacy, this is from Mary. How is literacy in the Midlands? Is the United Way literacy effort enough to address the problem in all counties and schools? What is the future of this program? I guess that's the Midlands Reading Consortium.
Yeah, that would be Midlands Reading Consortium. Great question. So Midlands Reading Consortium over the last 2 school years has had to take a different tack. We have been able to reach more students through MRC and the Midlands Reading Consortium, just to back up a second, is a program that United Way, it's a direct service program of United Way that we've had in place about 15 years, where we do one-on-one tutoring with students in kindergarten through 2nd grade who have been identified as their teachers, not as ones that need the professional reading intervention, but kids that are on the bubble, that with that little bit of extra help that the teacher may or may not be able to give them from a capacity perspective, but if they have that little bit of extra help, that they can become that better reader and not slide into the category of needing the professional reading intervention. And we've tutored thousands of kids over the years and put a strategic plan in place 3 years ago to ramp that up to 1,000 children being tutored one-on-one. And then COVID hit. And so for the last 2 years, what we've been doing is virtual tutoring, some one-on-one, but more in group settings, still with community volunteers, with trained community volunteers like Cindy Cox and many others, to do more group types of readings, guest readers, things like that. So we've reached more students. It just hasn't been as much on the one-on-one basis. So for the future of MRC, number one, we want to get back in those schools and do that one-on-one tutoring. There's only but so much you can do over a Zoom call with a 2nd grader. And so we want to do that. The second thing is we want to ramp up our evaluation of MRC. We do evaluate it. We get teacher feedback. We have a rubric that the teacher completes for us, but we want to do deeper and more longitudinal research around MRC to be able to really beef up what we're doing, to adjust how we're doing it, how differently do we need to be training people, what else can we be doing. The other component that we'd really like to introduce through MRC is STEM tutoring. Yes, you need to be able to read by 3rd grade to not be at risk for not graduating from high school. Math and other STEM oriented fields are progressive. One skill builds on the other. And if you missed a skill down here, you're going to have a hard time progressing here. So being able to introduce that component at the K through 2nd grade level as well, to be able to continue up that ladder for math, is really another one of the things that we want to do in the future.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. I want to thank everybody again. Great questions, great discussion. Just to give you a little bit of projection into the future for our Always United activities, we will be continuing this series in late February, early March. We will have an Impact Midlands to discuss education and that area of impact of United Way. So you probably will hear more about Midlands Reading Consortium at that point, and as well as other reading initiatives or education initiatives. In April, we are planning an event around the issue of climate change, and not from the science, not from the politics, but from what should we be expecting as residents of the Midlands from a climate change perspective. May, we will wrap up the Impact Midlands of the 3 United Way areas. We'll talk about health, the health area. And then our plan is, with all things working out, is that in June we will have some sort of end of year celebration where maybe we can get together in person, outdoors somewhere, and visit. Thank you all for your membership and your support of Always United in a personal way. So that's what we have coming up from Always United, the activities group. There will also be many volunteer opportunities, so keep your eye out for those. And I'm going to now turn it over to Lisa, back over to Lisa to wrap it up for us. And again, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, ladies, very much. Very much enjoyed it. And thank you all for participating and joining us today, and especially for your great questions. I can tell you want more information, just what we found out through the community assessment as well. And so one way to find out more about what's happening and to join us in that call to action is to join Always United. Always United is an affinity group of United Way of the Midlands, and it's made up of individuals who are approaching retirement or are retired. We have no minimum donation to join, and all are welcome. If you want to find ways to deepen that engagement through volunteerism and bettering the community of the Midlands, we've got it here at Always United. Down at the bottom, you see a great email address to email me if you'd like some more information, or you can find out more information on our website. One great way and easy way to get involved with Always United members this month is with our Little Bit initiative, and we're asking people to give a little and to serve a little with the Newberry Free Medical Clinic by donating some items. And you can email me to find out more about that, and we'll have more initiatives each month. Thanks again for your time, and thank you very much, Sarah, for your leadership of United Way of the Midlands and bettering the communities of the Midlands. Bye.